Hello everybody, Suvi here. I am going to be doing a quick video here for you guys for some alterations updates on how to take an old dress or really any dress that you have and alter it to your body. Some of the work I've already done, so you'll see some of the pins that I've got in here, and then I'm also going to be updating this because this is kind of a beaded monstrosity. So I have to fix that as well because the place that I bought it from did not really take care of their dresses very well. They put all the beaded dresses together and all the beads got stuck on each other and then they just busted, and because it's a chain beaded dress, it's when one goes, they all go. So yeah, so here's the dress. Alright, so this is the dress here. Ignore this orange shirt underneath. It's meant to just kind of keep the form that I have underneath here all set with everything that's padding wise. So as you can see, this is a bit of a monstrosity. There's beadwork that needs to be fixed here. There's some beadworks that need to be fixed all across here, down here, and all the way down. So you can see there's one here. There's a whole line of them missing right here that's fallen off, and as I said earlier, when you clip one, they all go, and this is pretty, indicative that you've lost a ton of beads. So here's what I've done for alterations. As you can see here, I've got some safety pins across the top here, so there's a piece of boning right here, and I'm taking it in that much, so you can see that's about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm really taking this in a 1/2 inch because there's 3/4 on both sides. So a pinch like that means I'm taking in a 1/2 inch here, and I'm doing the same thing on the other side. So I'm actually taking this top in by 3 inches all the way across for the bust measurement. And then you can see here that I've got some pins along here. They're on the other side there. And I've started kind of removing some of the beads here, and that's a bit of a tricky process because you don't want to cut these threads here. So you gotta pop them, essentially. And I'll show you that here in a second. But as you can see, I've got about a 1/2 inch here to start with. And then as it goes down, I've got about 5/8 of an inch down at the widest point, and then it tapers down into nothing. So basically what you want to do is when you get this all pinned and you're ready to start sewing this, you want to measure all of these, and then what you want to do is you want to write it all down. So you can see here that I've got my left top and my right top, and then I've got a little diagram for both sides. You don't have to do it this way. I do it because this is how my brain processes things. So this is the start of the top here for my right and left side. So you can see here that I've got a 1/2 inch pinch here, which is how much I measured right there. That was a 1/2 inch right there. And then I measured down, and on my left side, I'm taking it in a little bit more than I am on my right side. So I measured down 6 inches, and at 6 inches, it goes from 1/2 inch to 5/8. And then from 6 inches all the way down to 12, it goes from 5/8 to 0. So that way I know when I flip this inside out how much to start with, and about halfway down I need to be at 5/8, and then all the way down I need to be at 0. And then on my right side, I start at a 1/2 inch and I taper my way down to 0, 10 inches down. So my hips are not symmetrical, so my left hip obviously is a little bit smaller than my right hip, and the right hip comes up a little bit higher than the left hip. So you can even these out and make them the same on both sides. However, when you have somebody like me who has scoliosis, it's easier to do them as they're pinned because it makes sure that this is exactly your body type or your body measurements, and you don't have any weird shadowing or bunching that you don't want on one side or the other because you went the same on both sides. So I've also got my needle and thread here. And we'll get to that in a second, but I wanted to show you what you do for removing these beads right here. So the sequins, I'm just going to cut those off. I'm just going to cut them and kind of pull them off. I'm not going to cut the thread here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle nose pliers here, and I'm going to grab a hold of one of these, and I'm just going to squeeze it till it pops. Now you're going to get dust everywhere. These are little glass beads or something. You're going to get these everywhere. But this is the only way to do this without breaking your thread lines so that all of this doesn't go when you clip this. So the idea is when you get this done, and you've got your thread here, your thread will be caught in this seam. So hopefully you won't have to do any alterations to the beads that are left here, because the seam will be caught here and you don't have to worry about it coming out. I like to go in and go through these and make sure they're not going to come apart after I've got my seams sewn. So that way I know that I don't have to be fixing stuff like this later on down the line when the whole thing goes, and you know, I'm going to a party or I'm getting ready for something and then I see something like this. Because I was going to wear this for a Christmas party this year, but because as you can see there's so many missing pieces, I was like, I'm not even going to deal with this one tonight. I'll just wear something else. So you come through here and you get rid of all your little beads here. Again, skipping over the sequins because you don't want to cut that, because then all of these will come off this whole line. And you want to do enough beyond the seam so that you don't get your foot stuck on any of this here as well, because your foot's going to come over this when you sew it. So you want to go a little bit beyond your seam here. So this is going to be my seam. You want to go a little bit beyond so that you don't end up getting any fabric or anything stuck in your sewing machine. So I'm going to have to pop all of these, and as you can see, all the way down to when I'm down here to when I'm done. And then I'm going to have to do the same thing up here. I think what I'm going to do here, because there's a piece of boning here, is I'm just going to open this seam. And I'm going to take this piece of fabric here, and I'm just going to stuff it in and stitch it back down. That'll probably be the easiest way to do that, because of that piece of boning right here. And you can see that it'll look fine when I'm done, if this is just kind of stuffed in there. It'll also be easier. I will also have to remove all of those beads as well, so it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a lot of mess on the floor. My floor is gonna be really sparkly. And let me show you the back real quick, because it's a neat little dress. I mean, I bought it for $88 at David's Bridal, and it was in really, really bad shape. All these beads were pretty much gone. This is kind of my second round with going through this dress and making sure that all these beads are on it. So yeah, it's pretty backless, which is nice. It's nice for those summer weddings, I guess. And then the other thing I wanted to go over was the hem. I have already gotten the hem done. I had somebody do it for me. And my recommendation is, at least on this outer layer, to go through and mark it with a waxy chalk. The wax chalk doesn't really come off as easily as some of the regular chalks, and you just go around, all the way around like that. Make sure you have your shoes that you plan on wearing for this, though, because this is now hemmed to a certain pair of shoes that I have. And luckily, I don't have to deal with the beads going all the way down. Sometimes you might need to take enough off that you're having to deal with the beads. At that point, I would recommend doing Fabri-Tac and tacking the ends of your thread before you go cutting any of this material. And then that's that layer. And this layer was also done. So this is a 2-layer dress. Turns out I didn't have to do anything to the back here. Most of that was done to the front. So I'm thankfully the shoes I'm wearing with this made me tall enough that I didn't have to that I don't really have to do a whole lot. I'll come right back around to the front, so I'll show you the front hem. Okay, so again, I've got my lines here. As you can see, they're a little bit taller than the back because I have a bit of a butt, so there's that. And then I've got this one. So this is a little bit higher. As you can see, I've got probably about an inch here, maybe a little bit less. What you want to do is you want to make sure that your underneath layer is about an inch off the floor, and this layer just slightly dusts the floor. My mannequin is not exactly as tall as I would like it to be, but you can get a good idea of where that line sits based on this mesh and this underneath piece. So say that's the floor. The mannequin actually looks like it's actually pretty close. So this is where I'm going to be cutting, and this is just going to kind of dust the floor. I'm going to cut this with a roller cutter. I'm not going to cut it with a pair of scissors because it's just easier, and you can go with a straight line if you have a roller. And then this is just going to get roll hemmed. I don't have, well, I guess it is just a roll hem. Sometimes these will have a specific 2 or 3 threads, almost like a serge machine. This one doesn't, but this edge right here is kind of similar to what it would produce, except there would be another stitch right here. So luckily I don't have to do that because I don't have that machine. But you just do a regular rolled hem and call that one good. And then you've got your whole dress done.